Fake justice clown. Those three words, hurled across the chamber by President Donald Trump, weren't just an insult. They were the spark that ignited one of the fiercest showdowns in modern American history. In a nation where 74 million voters still defend him, and where 1 in 3 Black Americans say they faced racial profiling just this year, Jasmine Crockett wasn't about to back down. What unfolded wasn't politics as usual. It was a collision of power and principle, where every shout, every fact, and every lie could tilt the balance of justice for an entire country. Trump had the title. Jasmine had the truth. And in that room, the battle lines were drawn. Trump leaned back in his chair, one leg crossed over the other, a smirk curling at the corner of his mouth. The chamber, usually quiet and ceremonial, seemed to hold its breath. He pointed a finger at Jasmine, eyes glinting with mockery. "You really think you understand justice?" he sneered, voice sharp, dripping with contempt. "I've built empires, negotiated with world leaders, and yet here you are, shaking your little fists at me. Please." Jasmine didn't wait for him to finish. Her voice cut through the tension like a blade. "You are the president," she said, stepping forward, every word a direct strike. "Yet you speak like a man hiding from the law, dodging the very justice you claim to uphold." The chamber erupted. Microphones trembled, capturing the electricity in the air. Members of the panel exchanged startled glances. The press leaned forward, pens frozen, cameras zooming in on the defiance burning in Jasmine's eyes. Every heartbeat in that room seemed amplified, every breath weighted with the magnitude of the moment. Trump laughed, a harsh, hollow sound that echoed awkwardly off the walls. "Don't give me that lecture," he shot back, leaning forward, veins taut along his neck. "You're young, inexperienced, and emotional. This isn't your playground, little lady." Jasmine's smile was calm, almost serene, but her eyes blazed like wildfire. "Emotional?" she echoed, her tone steady and cutting. "You call concern for justice emotional. You call standing up for truth emotional. Yet every time the facts corner you, every time your lies unravel, suddenly the world is emotional and you are the victim." A ripple of murmurs swept through the chamber. Some members of the audience gasped. Some leaned forward, caught between disbelief and fascination. Reporters pressed record with a newfound intensity. Security officers shifted in their seats, a subtle tension threading through their rigid postures. This wasn't a hearing anymore. It was a battlefield. Every glance, every gesture, every carefully measured word felt like a move in a deadly chess match. Trump slammed his hand onto the desk, the reverberation rattling the microphones. "You think you scare me," he bellowed, his voice filling the chamber. "You and all your so-called supporters, you think you can bring me down? I've faced worse than you in my life." Jasmine's lips curled into a faint, confident smile. She took a deep breath, letting the chamber absorb her presence before delivering the next blow. "Faced worse?" she said softly, but every word carried weight. "Donald, the world isn't a boardroom filled with yes men. The world has eyes, the world has ears. And every single day, it watches leaders like you decide which truths to hide and which lies to amplify." Trump's jaw tightened. His usual theatrics faltered for a fraction of a second, betraying irritation. Then, rallying, he leaned forward, voice rising like a battering ram. "Listen, don't," Jasmine interjected, her hand raised, voice slicing through his attempt to regain control. "I won't let you manipulate this room with your theatrics. You wear the title of president, yet hide behind it like a shield for your own failures." The chamber seemed to shiver with the force of their collision. Every whispered note of strategy, every subtle glance exchanged among the committee underscored the stakes. Trump's eyes narrowed, scanning the room for allies, but even his supporters seemed momentarily frozen, caught in the storm Jasmine had summoned. Jasmine stepped closer, lowering her voice just enough to make it intimate, yet no less powerful. "For every lie you've told, for every justice you've obstructed, for every fear you've spread, there's a reckoning, and it starts right here, right now." Trump's face turned crimson, a mixture of rage and disbelief. He slammed the papers in front of him, sending a flurry of documents fluttering to the floor. The chamber's acoustics amplified the chaos. the metallic clangs of the desk punctuating every heartbeat. A tense silence followed. Everyone in the room felt it. The moment suspended between old power and new resolve. Jasmine's eyes locked on Trump, unwavering, as though the entire weight of history was balanced on this confrontation. She straightened her posture, her voice resonating across the chamber. This isn't about politics. This isn't about personalities. This is about the law, the people, and the truth. And I will not be intimidated. The microphones caught the electricity of her words. The cameras zoomed in on the tremor of shock in Trump's expression, and the press knew. They were witnessing the opening salvo of a battle that would dominate headlines for weeks, maybe months. And as the room exhaled collectively, Jasmine turned slightly, addressing the viewers, as if her words transcended the chamber walls. If you want to witness every strike, every revelation, every moment where truth confronts power, subscribe to Harrison Stories. The fight is just beginning. The camera lingered for a moment on Jasmine's face, her jaw set, eyes burning with an intensity that made even the most seasoned reporters catch their breath. The words she had just spoken still hung in the air like a charged current, and for a heartbeat, the entire chamber felt suspended, waiting for the next move. Trump didn't wait. He leaned forward, fingers drumming aggressively on the desk. "You think you're clever," he snapped, voice cutting through the tension. "You're just another puppet, a mouthpiece for America's haters. Every word you say is nothing but recycled anger from people who don't understand how the world works." Jasmine's eyes narrowed, her response immediate, crisp, and lethal. "I am the voice of truth," she fired back, stepping closer so the distance between them seemed charged with electricity. "And you, Donald, are the loudspeaker for lies. Every deception, every manipulation. You broadcast it as if the people were too blind to see." The chamber erupted into murmurs again. Reporters leaned in, pens flying, cameras catching every micro-expression. The zoomed-in shots revealed the sweat forming along Trump's hairline, the slight tremor in his left hand, the tightening of his jaw as Jasmine's words landed with surgical precision. Trump's smirk faltered for a fraction of a second, a crack in the armor he usually wore so effortlessly. "Surgery?" he snapped, eyes flashing. "I built this country's empire. I lead the nation. And you? You're just an angry girl with a law degree trying to make headlines." Anger rose in Jasmine like a controlled flame, but she held it, channeling it into each syllable. "Headlines?" she said, her voice steady but cutting. "Donald, the headlines will write themselves, not because of me, but because of you. Every lie you tell, every corner of the law you twist, it all falls apart under scrutiny. That's not opinion, it's fact. And facts are not afraid of your theatrics." Trump slammed his hand on the desk, shaking papers into the air. The microphone rattled violently, broadcasting the chaos for everyone in the room and beyond. "You think facts scare me?" he shouted. "You and all your supporters? I've faced millions and I've won every battle. Do you think you're special?" Jasmine leaned forward, eyes locking with his, her voice lowering so that even the microphones caught the sharp edge. "I am special," she said, "because I stand on the side of truth, and the side of justice does not fear exposure. Your millions mean nothing when weighed against accountability, Donald." The cameras cut between close-ups of their faces, the sheen of sweat on Trump's forehead, the hard set of Jasmine's jaw, the tension coiling like a spring ready to snap. Every gesture, every breath, every glare felt like a high-stakes duel. Trump spat out words like bullets. "You're reckless. You don't understand how power works. You don't know the first thing about survival in this arena." Jasmine didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled faintly, sharp and knowing, letting the calm in her expression make his rage look hollow. "Power without principles," she replied, "is nothing but a mask for fear. You can shout, you can threaten, but in the end, lies will crumble. And today, you are already beginning to fall." A flash from the press cameras lit the room. Zooming in, every droplet of sweat, every flicker of disbelief in Trump's eyes, every subtle smirk of satisfaction on Jasmine's face was captured. The intensity was almost unbearable, a combustible mix of confrontation and revelation. Trump tried to regain control, pounding the desk again. You, you called me a puppet, Jasmine interrupted smoothly, her words slicing through the rising storm. I am no one's puppet. I answer only to the law, to the people, and to the truth. And that is something you can never manipulate. The room shuddered with the force of the exchange. Every member of the panel leaned in, some tense, some visibly shocked. The air was electric, crackling with the raw collision of personalities. Trump's supporters fidgeted uncomfortably, glancing at one another, sensing the unraveling tension. Jasmine's gaze didn't waver. Her words rolled over the chamber like a controlled tsunami, precise and devastating. For every lie you've propagated, every injustice you've hidden, the world is watching. Every move you make is cataloged. Every attempt to distort the truth is countered. And right here, right now, I will make sure justice has a voice that cannot be silenced. Trump's face flushed deeper, a mixture of fury and disbelief. He pounded the desk one last time, but his words now faltered, bouncing weakly against the armor of Jasmine's resolve. The cameras caught it all, the crack in his performance, the sweat dripping along his temple, the shifting eyes of his allies. And as the chamber held its collective breath, Jasmine straightened, voice steady but resonant, sending a message far beyond the room itself. This is only the beginning. The truth will not be silenced. And for every moment you think power can hide injustice, remember, some of us are willing to fight. The microphone buzzed, papers fluttered, and the audience, inside the chamber and across the nation, knew they had just witnessed a duel of wills that would dominate headlines. Every insult, every retort, every piercing glare had been a strike in a battle that was just getting started. The chamber still hummed with tension, a charged silence that made every creak of the floorboards echo like thunder. Jasmine took a deliberate breath, her fingers brushing against a thick stack of folders and documents that had been prepared for this exact moment. The papers were heavy, leather-bound, and bursting with evidence. Financial records, emails, recordings, and sworn affidavits. With a forceful slam, she dropped the stack onto the center of the desk. The sound reverberated sharply through the chamber, startling a few aides and sending a flurry of loose papers fluttering to the floor. The microphones quivered. For a split second, it felt as if the room itself was holding its breath. Trump's eyes narrowed, the corners of his mouth twisting into a sneer. "Fake!" he shouted, pounding the desk in an attempt to drown out the authority in her action. "All of it, completely fabricated. Lies, you think this will scare me?" But Jasmine didn't flinch. She leaned over, flipping open one of the thick folders, and her voice rang out, calm, precise, and merciless. She began to read a passage aloud, citing dates, names, and financial transfers, each word dropping like a hammer. On March 14th, 2023, funds were transferred from the campaign account to offshore entities, she stated, her tone measured, unwavering. Emails indicate direct approval. Witnesses corroborate. There is no dispute, no alternative narrative, only the facts. The chamber froze. Even Trump faltered, his hands suspended midair, the word fake trembling on his lips. Reporters in the back exchanged wide-eyed glances, some scribbling furiously, some whispering, their cameras panning in rapid succession to capture the unfolding spectacle. A loud gasp ran through the audience. Senators shifted in their seats, some leaning forward, eyes widening. The echo of the desk slamming again punctuated Jasmine's next lines, every syllable cutting through the tension with surgical precision. Every document, every witness statement, every recording points to deliberate obstruction of justice. The evidence is irrefutable, and the pattern is clear. This is not opinion. It is fact. Trump bellowed, his face crimson, veins bulging in his forehead. He slammed his hand on the desk, rattling papers across the chamber. "I will not sit here and let you smear me," he roared. "This is political theater. You're all part of some orchestrated attack." But the room had shifted. The momentum was no longer in his favor. Jasmine's gaze remained fixed, unyielding, as she leaned slightly forward, commanding the room with a presence that seemed almost physical. "Political theater?" she asked, her voice cutting through the din, sharper than any gavel. "No, this is reality, and reality cannot be staged, manipulated, or shouted down. The people deserve the truth, and today they will have it. A flash from the press cameras illuminated the scene, highlighting the tension etched on Trump's face. Beads of sweat appeared along his temple. Jasmine's expression, in contrast, radiated control and certainty. Every line of her face a declaration that she was the master of this moment. The contrast between them could not have been starker. One man clinging desperately to authority, the other wielding evidence like a sword. She flipped another folder open and held it in front of her, letting the weight of the evidence visually dominate the desk. Here, she continued, are the contracts signed and verified, emails intercepted and logged, testimonies from employees who were threatened for speaking out. These documents tell the story that no amount of shouting can erase. The pattern of deceit is undeniable, the timeline unbroken, the responsibility clear. Trump's hands shook slightly now, a twitch betraying the fury behind his facade. He stood abruptly, leaning toward her, voice rising in desperation. You think waving papers at me will topple me? You're naive. This isn't some courtroom drama. It's real power, and I control it. Jasmine remained seated, calm as ever, but her voice was like steel. Real power, she said slowly, emphasizing each word, is measured not by titles, money, or fear, but by accountability. And here, in front of the nation, in front of witnesses, your power cannot erase what has already been documented. Truth is relentless, Donald, and today it will speak louder than your threats. The chamber seemed to tremble under the force of her words. Chairs scraped, pens dropped, the collective inhalation of the audience palpable. Some leaned forward, rapt. Some whispered in disbelief. The air was dense with anticipation, tension, and the thrill of witnessing history unfold. Trump's voice finally broke, cracking at the edges. This is absurd. Lies, lies, all lies, he stammered, pounding the desk one last time. But the words seemed hollow, echoing off walls that no longer protected him. Jasmine's eyes scanned the room, the press, the panel, and finally Trump himself. No, she said, voice ringing with absolute clarity. Not lies, facts, and the facts are undefeated. She let the words settle, letting the silence stretch just long enough for their weight to crush the room. A sudden clatter of chairs, a gasp from the back row, and a sharp intake of breath from reporters punctuated the moment. The chamber had transformed from a room of procedure into an arena, a battlefield where every sound, the slap of folders, the echo of slamming hands, the low hum of whispered astonishment, was part of the war. Trump sat back, flushed, trying to regain composure. But Jasmine's presence, her unwavering control over the narrative, had claimed the center stage. And in that charged silence, it was clear. The duel had escalated. The storm of evidence had arrived, and no amount of bluster could withstand it. Trump's face was still flushed, beads of sweat forming along his temple. But Jasmine didn't let the pause linger too long. Cameras in the chamber whirred to life, broadcasting every detail to millions of viewers around the world. The banner at the top of screens flashed, "Live Congressional Hearing, Jasmine Crockett versus Donald Trump." Within minutes, the hashtag Shasha Trump vs. Jasmine exploded on every social media platform, trending first nationally, then globally. Notifications pinged ceaselessly as millions tuned in, drawn by the storm already brewing in the chamber. Jasmine took a deliberate step forward, her gaze locking on Trump with the precision of a seasoned warrior. The American people, she said, her voice cutting through the hum of anticipation, do not need a leader who thrives on lies. They do not need a president who obscures the truth for personal gain. And you, Donald, have chosen deception over duty. The room gasped. Even some of Trump's allies faltered, caught off guard by the directness of her words. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every nuance. The slight tremor in Trump's fingers, the flare of nostrils, the almost imperceptible quickening of his heartbeat. The live feed picked it all up. The tension was palpable, almost suffocating, as if the chamber itself were holding its breath. Trump's eyes narrowed, a low growl escaping him as he tried to seize control of the narrative. You, he bellowed, voice breaking with restrained fury. You are a traitor to this country. How dare you accuse me of such things in front of the entire world? Jasmine didn't flinch. She raised her chin, pointing decisively at him, each word dripping with conviction. Traitor? She countered, her voice unwavering. No, Donald. The real betrayal is hiding the truth from the citizens you swore to serve. The real betrayal is choosing lies over justice. And today the world is watching. Every lie, every cover-up will be revealed. The cameras zoomed in even closer, capturing the intensity in both their faces. Trump's pulse thudded audibly under the strain of stress, the live feed showing the subtle quiver in his jaw, the slight flush of his neck, the rapid blink of his eyes, all signs of mounting pressure. Meanwhile, Jasmine's composure was nearly supernatural, each gesture deliberate, commanding, and poised for maximum impact. Social media feeds erupted. Tweets, posts, and live comments poured in at a staggering rate. Millions reacting, debating, dissecting. Screens across the nation showed split views, one half with Jasmine's determined glare, the other with Trump's escalating frustration. Viewers couldn't look away. Every pause, every breath, every slight smirk or grimace became headline news in real time. Trump slammed his hand on the desk, the sound echoing violently through the chamber. "You think pointing fingers will destroy me?" he shouted, voice cracking. "This is political theater, nothing more. You're trying to topple a sitting president." Jasmine leaned in, her voice low but slicing through the chaos like a blade. "Political theater?" she said, her gaze piercing. "No, Donald. This is accountability. This is what it looks like when the people demand truth. And no amount of yelling, no amount of theatrics can silence it." A sudden rustle of papers, a microphone buzzing from the force of the slam, and the press cameras captured the tension with cinematic clarity. Every frame seemed to vibrate with anticipation. The audience, both live and global, could almost feel the chamber's heat, the electricity in the air, the storm about to break. Trump tried to rally, leaning forward, fists gripping the edge of the desk. "You'll regret this," he spat, voice quivering with a mixture of anger and fear. "You think the world will believe you? They won't. You're just one lawyer against a president." Jasmine's expression softened only slightly, the faintest smile appearing, but it was sharper than any blade. "One lawyer?" she said almost conversationally. "No, Donald. One lawyer is enough when armed with the truth. And right now the truth is unstoppable. Every fact, every witness, every document you tried to hide is on record, and millions are watching. Your lies have nowhere left to hide." The chamber erupted again, chairs scraping, pens falling, the hum of astonishment almost deafening. Trump's face reddened further, veins standing out on his forehead, hands trembling just slightly. A camera captured it all, broadcasting every micro-expression to the world. Jasmine's voice remained a calm thunder, commanding attention, commanding respect. Finally, she lowered her finger, letting the weight of her words sink in. "You may shout, you may threaten, you may try to intimidate, but remember this, Donald. History is watching, the people are watching, and the truth does not fear the powerful. It conquers them." The live feed exploded with comments, reactions, shares, and hashtags. Trump vs. Jasmine was no longer trending. It was dominating every platform, a symbol of the clash between lies and accountability. The chamber, the world, even Trump himself could feel the momentum shifting irrevocably. The duel had reached a new peak, global, viral, unavoidable. And as Jasmine stepped back, letting the evidence and her words speak louder than any gesture, the room remained charged, alive, and utterly captivated. In that moment, it was clear. The fight for truth had gone global, and nothing, not even a president's fury, could stop it. The chamber's tension didn't ease. If anything, it thickened, wrapping itself around every person present. Outside, millions of viewers were glued to their screens. Social media erupted into chaos. Half the world applauded Jasmine, flooding feeds with messages of support and admiration, while the other half rallied behind Trump, calling her accusations baseless and defaming. The digital battlefield mirrored the chamber itself, polarized, raw, and unstoppable. Inside, Trump leaned forward again, his hands clenching into fists on the desk. His face was red, his voice rising in fury. "You think you're clever, don't you?" he barked, pointing a finger with venom. "You parade around like some moral crusader, but you're just a puppet of the radical left, a pawn in their game. You're pathetic, and everyone sees it. Jasmine's response was a study in controlled precision. She didn't shout. She didn't flinch. She let the words land like scalpel cuts, deliberate and merciless. Pathetic? She asked, voice cold and deliberate, each syllable sharp as glass. Donald, the only pathetic thing here is the willingness to obscure truth to protect your own ego. You confuse fear with respect, deception with leadership, and the people are watching it all. A microphone hummed, capturing every nuance. Cameras zoomed in on Trump's furrowed brow, the twitch in his jaw, the rapid blink of his eyes. Every ounce of frustration, every drop of sweat was visible to the world. Jasmine's eyes were icy, unwavering, her tone surgical. She dissected every accusation, every attempt to dominate the room, without a trace of hesitation. Look around, she continued, gesturing subtly to the committee and press. Every document, every witness, every shred of evidence contradicts your claims. And yet you continue to shout, to attempt intimidation. The people see it, history sees it, and you cannot rewrite it with anger or bluster. Trump slammed his hand on the desk, rattling papers violently. You think you intimidate me? He spat, veins protruding along his neck. I've survived worse than you, more powerful than you. You're nothing. But Jasmine remained untouched, the room seemingly bending to her presence. Nothing? She said, her voice rising just enough to reverberate without losing clarity. Nothing? You may hold the title, the office, the illusion of power, but truth is unassailable. And here, in front of the nation, your attempts to dominate have failed. Outside viewers held their breath. Social feeds were ablaze. One moment, clips of Trump's outbursts, the next, sound bites of Jasmine's piercing retorts. Comments poured in by the millions. She's fearless, one post read. How does he even respond? Asked another. Trump vis Jasmine remained the top trending topic globally, the battle spilling across every corner of the digital world. Trump's face darkened, a flicker of desperation crossing his usually confident demeanor. He lunged verbally again, hurling insults with venom. You're a liar. You're corrupt. You're nothing but a puppet for the radical left. Jasmine's calmness didn't waver, her eyes like steel fixed on him, absorbing the aggression and reframing it as evidence of his instability. Lies, she said, voice low, deliberate, chilling. The only lies here are the ones you have told for years. Every attempt to discredit me only illuminates the truth you fear. You are trying to silence justice, and yet it speaks louder than your shouting ever could. The chamber vibrated with tension. Chairs scraped, pens clattered, and the hum of astonished whispers filled the room. Every frame captured by the cameras, from the perspiration forming along Trump's hairline to the icy fire in Jasmine's gaze, was broadcast live to an enthralled global audience. People leaned closer, hearts racing, unable to look away. Trump's voice cracked again. You'll regret this. This is treasonous. You're a disgrace to this country. Jasmine's expression softened slightly, not in concession, but in deliberate contrast, a calm that accentuated her authority. Treason, she said, each word deliberate and cutting. Treason is hiding corruption. Treason is deceiving the people you vowed to protect. I am not a traitor. You are, and every American watching right now knows it. The room's energy was almost tangible, the friction between them sparking an electric intensity. Cameras captured every micro-expression, every flicker of doubt or defiance. The press leaned in, scribbling furiously, capturing every syllable for history. Social media didn't just react, it exploded. Videos of Jasmine's retorts went viral within minutes. Clips of Trump's outbursts were dissected endlessly. Hashtags trended across multiple continents, and still Jasmine maintained the upper hand. Every insult hurled at her was dismantled with precision. Every attempt at domination met with calm authority. She had turned Trump's fury into evidence of his own volatility. She had transformed the chamber into a stage and herself into the eye of the storm. Outside, viewers stayed glued to screens. Some cheered, some cursed, but none could look away. It was impossible. The duel was no longer just inside the chamber. It was in every living room, every office, every phone, every tablet. The world was watching, mesmerized, captivated, and unwilling to blink. Jasmine's final words for the session reverberated through both the chamber and screens worldwide. The people demand truth. They demand justice. And no title, no fortune, no facade can silence what is right. Today, the fight continues, and every American has the right to witness it. The cameras lingered on Trump's flushed, strained face, his rapid breathing and twitching hands exposed. Jasmine's icy calm and piercing stare dominated the frame. The public could see it all. The clash of lies versus truth, fury versus resolve. And for millions, there was no turning away. The gong kim of public opinion had tightened, and the world was watching history unfold. Trump's eyes narrowed dangerously, a flicker of predatory calculation replacing the flushed frustration on his face. "You speak of truth and justice," he growled, leaning forward with fists pounding the desk. "But let's not forget the past, Jasmine. How about your little campaign missteps? The mismanaged funds? The promises broken? Do you expect the public to forget that while lecturing me about integrity?" A ripple ran through the chamber. Reporters shifted in their seats, cameras zooming rapidly, capturing every micro-expression. The smirk that threatened to betray triumph on Trump's lips. The tightening of his jaw as he tried to project dominance. The live feed showed the hashtag #TrumpsJasmine spiking once again as the audience outside caught the bait. For a moment, a shadow of hesitation flickered across Jasmine's features. Just a fraction of a second. Then, like a predator sensing weakness, Trump pushed harder. "You think your evidence shields you? Your credibility is tarnished. You claim to represent truth, yet your own record is compromised." The room seemed to contract, the tension rising to a fever pitch. Viewers around the world leaned closer to their screens, comments pouring in at a rapid pace. Half aghast at the accusation, half ready to watch Jasmine crumble. The atmosphere was thick, electric, almost suffocating, as if every breath taken could ignite a storm. Then Jasmine spoke. The chamber, the press, the millions watching worldwide seemed to hold its collective breath. "This," she said, voice slicing cleanly through the tension, "is exactly what you do best. Deflect, distract, and distort. Because you are terrified of the truth. You throw dirt to cloud reality because facing it would expose you. And right now, Donald, that fear is palpable." Trump's face contorted in rage. He leaned closer, voice rising with unbridled fury. "Fear? I am the most powerful man in this room. How dare you accuse me of fear?" Jasmine's response was calm, measured, icy in its precision. "Power," she said, each word deliberate, "without integrity is nothing but a facade. And your fear isn't hidden. It's written in every attempt to mislead, to distract, to attack me personally instead of confronting the evidence. That is your weakness. That is your undoing." The microphones caught the slight crack in Trump's voice, the tremor of his words, the quiver in his hands as he slammed the desk again. The camera lingered on his eyes, once defiant, now darting nervously as the full weight of Jasmine's counterattack pressed down. Outside, millions held their breath, eyes glued to screens, hearts racing. Every gesture, every word, every flicker of doubt became a spectacle. Trump tried to regain control. This is manipulation. You're playing the public, twisting narratives. People will see through this." Jasmine leaned in slightly, her piercing stare unbroken. "They already have," she said, her voice resonating with lethal clarity. "The people see the deflection. They see the attacks. They see the fear. And they see the truth, standing unwavering in front of every lie you've tried to hide. This isn't manipulation. It's accountability." The chamber was silent for a heartbeat, tension so thick it was almost visible. Chairs creaked under restless shifts, pens tapped nervously. Even the reporters held their breaths, waiting for the next volley. Outside, the live stream comments exploded. "She just demolished him," one post read. Another, "This is unreal. The control she has is insane." The hashtag #NosTrumpVVsJasmine skyrocketed again, trending worldwide, each new comment a testament to the magnetic intensity of the duel. Trump's jaw tightened. You think words can topple me? I built this empire, I built this office. You are nothing but a speck compared to me. Jasmine's eyes narrowed, her voice unwavering, slicing through the roar of his fury. An empire built on deception crumbles at the first light of truth, and a speck of integrity, no matter how small, can expose every hollow wall you've erected. Look around, Donald. The world is watching, and every attempt to intimidate has only proven one thing. You cannot escape what is rightfully visible. The chamber felt like it was on the brink of eruption. The air was electric, almost physically heavy, each word acting like a spark in a storm ready to explode. Trump's chest heaved, his hands trembling on the desk, his eyes darting in desperate calculation. Jasmine's calm, her control over the narrative, her piercing, surgical precision in speech, it dominated every frame, every feed, every screen. And in that moment, it was undeniable. The battle had reached its apex. Lies and fury collided with truth and resolve, the duel teetering on a knife's edge. Every heart watching, inside and outside the chamber, was caught in the tension. No one could look away. The world waited, collective breaths held, as Jasmine and Trump continued their high-stakes clash. Every second a heartbeat closer to revelation, every word a decisive move in a battle with no retreat. Jasmine's fingers hovered over the playback button for a heartbeat, the tension in the chamber almost palpable. Every eye, every camera, every witness, every viewer across the globe, focused on that small, unassuming device. With deliberate slowness, she pressed play. A distorted, low hum filled the room first, then a voice, Donald Trump's, cut through with unmistakable clarity. It was a private conversation, meant never to see the light of day, yet now laid bare before the world. The words dripped with manipulation, strategy, and a raw willingness to exploit power for personal gain. Every nuance, every inflection, every pause revealed the plan, a meticulously crafted attempt to undermine justice, control narratives, and silence opposition. Trump's face drained of color almost instantly. His eyes widened, his lips parting in disbelief. "What?" he began, voice cracking. But Jasmine didn't allow the interruption. The room erupted as the recording played on, listeners recoiling as they heard the cold, calculated nature of Trump's political maneuvering. Jasmine's gaze remained locked on him, unwavering, almost predatory in its precision. She let the silence between his recorded words and her piercing stare linger, ensuring that the magnitude of exposure settled in the room like a heavy fog. A bead of sweat slid down Trump's temple. He slammed his hand on the desk, rattling papers violently, the sound echoing like gunfire in the tense silence. "This is fake! I demand! This is illegal! How dare you!" he bellowed, voice fracturing under the weight of sudden vulnerability and anger. Jasmine leaned in slightly, letting the microphones capture every word, her calm radiating authority in stark contrast to his frenzy. "Fake?" she asked, voice low, deliberate, each syllable a blade. "This is reality. This is proof. And it doesn't matter how loudly you shout, how forcefully you slam, or how red your face turns. The truth speaks louder than your fury, Donald." The chamber's energy shifted violently, almost as if the walls themselves vibrated under the weight of revelation. Cameras zoomed in, catching every micro-expression. Trump's furrowed brow, the slight quiver of his hands, the almost imperceptible shake of his jaw. Jasmine's eyes, in contrast, were ice, controlled, precise, and merciless. Every frame captured the imbalance, the exposure of raw truth versus desperate bluster. She let the recording play a little longer, pausing at the most damning moment. "Listen to this," she commanded, and every ear in the chamber tuned in, even those outside the room via live broadcast. This is the voice of a man more concerned with power than people. A man who hides behind rhetoric while orchestrating deception? The effect was instantaneous. A ripple of shock ran through the room. Reporters gasped. Committee members leaned forward, some covering their mouths. The audience at home went silent, mesmerized as the cold reality of the recording sank in. Comments exploded online. He's done. She just KO'd him. Unbelievable. The evidence is undeniable. History is being written live. Trump rose abruptly, veins bulging, fists trembling. This is a setup. This is illegal. You're a liar. You can't. Jasmine held up a hand, stopping him with the sheer force of presence. No, she said, voice sharp and precise. I am the messenger. You are the author of this revelation. Every plan, every whisper, every manipulative strategy belongs to you. And today the world is hearing it, seeing it, and understanding it. This is not an attack. It is accountability. Trump's chair scraped against the floor as he slammed his hands once more, a futile attempt to reclaim dominance. But the room no longer responded to him. The chamber, the press, the cameras, the millions of viewers, they were collectively witnessing a knockout. Every syllable Jasmine spoke cut deeper than any shouted retort, every pause timed to maximize impact, every gesture a display of control and authority. A shout of astonishment erupted from the gallery. A camera caught a man leaning forward, eyes wide, jaw dropped. Another screamed in disbelief. The audience's collective roar swelled as Jasmine stepped back, letting the recording play out fully. The tension snapped. The chamber seemed to explode in sound. Gasps, cheers, whispers, and the clatter of pens and papers. Trump's face was crimson, his breathing ragged, shoulders shaking. He could do nothing but glare, impotent as the truth, not rhetoric, not bluster, not authority, claimed victory. Jasmine's words had landed a perfect surgical strike, a knockout blow witnessed live by the world. And in that moment, it was undeniable. The duel had reached its decisive peak. Lies had collided with truth, fury with resolve, and the balance had shifted irrevocably. Jasmine stood poised, calm, victorious, not in triumphalism, but in the cold, undeniable power of justice revealed. The room, the world held its breath, echoing a collective understanding. This was the turning point, the moment when manipulation, deceit, and calculated fury met an unshakable resolve and lost. History was being recorded, live, for everyone to see. The chamber, once a fortress of disciplined political posturing, began to fracture before everyone's eyes. Whispers grew louder, subtle glances turned into sharp exchanges, and a crack appeared in the seemingly impenetrable wall of Trump's support. Advisors and allies who had once nodded in unison now debated in low, urgent tones. Some hesitated to defend him, others cast cautious glances toward the evidence strewn across the room. Jasmine didn't waste a moment. She moved with the precision of a strategist who had read the battlefield perfectly. Each word she spoke now targeted not only Trump, but the shaky foundation of loyalty around him. Look at them, she said calmly, gesturing toward the murmuring allies. Even those sworn to protect you are beginning to see the cracks. Power built on fear and deception cannot withstand scrutiny. Trump's face darkened, his mouth tightening into a thin line. His voice, when it came, was loud, but it betrayed the slightest tremor. These people, they are supposed to be loyal, he bellowed, pounding a fist on the desk. They're supposed to protect me. How dare they question? But the room had shifted. The allies' voices now carried doubt, subtle disagreements muttering under the surface. A congressman cleared his throat, glancing at another before quietly suggesting an alternative approach. Cameras caught the moment. The solid front of Trump's support was showing its first fissures, and the world saw it in real time. Jasmine's eyes glimmered with calculated intensity. Fear can hold people together for a moment, Donald, she said, stepping closer. But truth doesn't negotiate with fear. Truth exposes it. Every lie you've built your empire upon is now under the light of scrutiny. Every ally who hesitates, every supporter who questions, is proof that the illusion of invincibility is gone. Trump's voice rose to a roar, yet it carried the weight of desperation now. These people, they want to overthrow me. They're all plotting. Do you hear me? Plotting. A shiver of uncertainty rippled through the chamber. His words, meant to command loyalty, instead revealed the fragility beneath. His own tone betrayed fear, a slight quiver undermining the volume of his protest. Even the live audience, millions watching across screens worldwide, sensed the shift. The hashtag #Trump for Jasmine surged anew, trending across continents as people dissected the body language, the subtle cues of diminishing control. Jasmine didn't hesitate. She leaned forward, the light catching her eyes like steel, voice steady and authoritative. "No, Donald, we are not plotting against you. We are watching. The people are watching, and what they see is clear. Deception cannot shield you. Your allies can only follow the truth for so long before it cracks the walls you've built. The walls are crumbling, and there is nothing you can do to hold them together with bluster or rage." The chamber seemed to pulse with energy. Every whispered argument, every hesitant glance between Trump's advisors added weight to her words. She moved like a master painter, highlighting each flaw, each fracture, painting a picture of vulnerability that could not be ignored. Trump's hands shook now, gripping the desk as if to anchor himself. "No, they are loyal. You can't. This is treason," he shouted, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. Cameras zoomed in, catching the unsteady breath, the quickened pulse, the twitch in his fingers. Even his most loyal supporters could not ignore the obvious anxiety. Doubt had seeped into the fortress. Jasmine's voice sliced through the chaos like a blade. "Treason is hiding the truth, Donald. You call exposure treason, but it is merely accountability. And accountability, once unleashed, spares no one. Neither king nor president, neither ally nor pawn. Look around. The cracks are everywhere. The world is watching, and nothing can patch what has been broken." The press captured it all. Advisors shifting uneasily in their seats, whispers growing louder, some glancing toward the committee, others looking down at their phones, checking reactions from the global audience. Trump's fury remained, but it was increasingly performative, masking the fear that now radiated from every gesture, every strained expression. Jasmine pressed her advantage. "Every action you've taken to intimidate, every word you've hurled, every attempt to manipulate, it has all failed. The cracks are visible, undeniable. You may shout, you may pound, you may try to rally loyalty with fear, but the people, your allies, history, they all see the walls of deception crumbling around you." Trump's chest heaved as he tried to respond, the roar coming out fractured, desperate. No one can. These people." Jasmine didn't flinch. Her voice was calm, unyielding, her presence dominating every frame captured by the cameras. "Yes, Donald, they can see. The empire of lies you built cannot withstand the daylight of truth. The walls are crumbling, and all that remains is the raw reality you tried so hard to hide. It is over. Your fortress is no more." The chamber erupted in whispers, gasps, and stunned silence all at once. The allies of Trump exchanged glances, their solidarity faltering, as if each syllable Jasmine spoke chipped away at their certainty. The world outside leaned closer, riveted, witnessing the unraveling of what once seemed invincible. The rift had become undeniable. Trump roared once more, but the voice was hollow, trembling under the weight of exposure. And Jasmine, icy and precise, simply watched, allowing the walls of deception to crumble in real time, exposing the fragile man beneath, the cracks for the world to see. Jasmine straightened, letting the gravity of the moment sink in before the audience. Every eye in the chamber was fixed on her, every camera lens magnifying her presence. She had the pieces, the recordings, the documents, the first-hand accounts, and now, like a masterful artist, she began to assemble them. Each fragment clicked into place, forming a mosaic of undeniable truth. She gestured toward the evidence. "Observe carefully," she said, voice steady, precise, resonant. Every action, every whisper, every decision designed to mislead or manipulate has left a trace. And these traces, when connected, reveal the strategy in full. The full picture of deception, exposure, and exploitation. Her words struck like hammers, each syllable landing with precision. The walls Trump had built, of intimidation, of fear, of false bravado, quivered with every statement. It was as if the very air in the chamber had thickened, charged with the weight of revelation. Reporters held pens midair, cameras zoomed in, and viewers worldwide leaned closer, sensing the crescendo of history in motion. Trump's face contorted. His chest heaved, veins visible at his temples. He slammed a fist onto the desk, attempting to drown out the resonance of Jasmine's narrative. "Conspiracy! Conspiracy!" he shouted, his voice echoing hollowly. But it was swallowed by the chamber's oppressive silence, a silence punctuated only by the undeniable clarity of truth. Jasmine didn't falter. Each word she spoke reinforced the structure she was building, a fortress not of lies, but of irrefutable evidence. You've attempted to manipulate public perception, mislead officials, and silence those who would hold you accountable. Every thread, every plan, every deceit has been captured, and when woven together, the image is clear. Not a story of ambition or leadership, but one of orchestration, exploitation, and evasion of justice. The chamber shifted subtly, the audience instinctively leaning forward. Allies of Trump exchanged uneasy glances, some trying to find explanations, some searching for loopholes, but none able to disrupt the flow of Jasmine's meticulous revelation. Each document, each quote, each recording was a hammer strike against the illusion he had cultivated for decades. Trump's voice rose again, hoarse, cracking at the edges. "Lies, lies, this is fabrication. They are fabricating this." But Jasmine was already 3 steps ahead, pointing to the evidence board that now displayed a web of connections so intricate, so undeniable, that even the most loyal observers had no choice but to acknowledge its clarity. "Fabrication?" she said, lips barely moving, eyes cutting through the room like a scalpel. "Every word, every action, every document is verifiable. The only fabrication here is the empire of denial you built around yourself. And now, it crumbles." The chamber's energy reached a fever pitch. The live feed outside captured the moment. Trump's face, red and strained, veins bulging. Jasmine, composed, unwavering, words flowing like a relentless tide. The audience felt the clash of power and accountability in their bones, every sentence a hammer pounding against the walls of deception. "You see, Donald," Jasmine continued, voice measured yet merciless, "truth is not intimidated by shouts or fury. Truth does not bend before power. And once the pieces are assembled, once the puzzle is complete, the image cannot be ignored. It stands there, stark, undeniable, and the world sees it. Even your attempts to scream it away cannot erase it." Trump's fist trembled as he pounded the desk again, voice rising to a desperate shriek. "Conspiracy! Conspiracy! They are out to destroy me!" But the chamber was silent, the words powerless against the magnitude of Jasmine's assembly of evidence. Each piece fit seamlessly, each fact corroborated, each revelation building the mosaic of exposure. And in that silence, the audience recognized the decisive moment. Deception had met its match, fury had been outmaneuvered, and truth had taken command. Jasmine's eyes swept across the room, landing on Trump for the briefest moment. "This is what accountability looks like," she said, calm yet thunderous. "This is the world seeing clearly, without distortion, and the picture is complete." A collective gasp swept through the chamber. Even the most hardened aides could not hide their astonishment. Cameras captured every reaction, every flinch, every glance toward the evidence as the mosaic of truth settled in, solid and undeniable. Outside, millions watched, comments flooding in, the hashtag #Trump vs Jasmine once again trending, reflecting the magnitude of the revelation. Trump opened his mouth to shout again, but no words carried. His voice, once commanding, now fell flat in the suffocating weight of exposure. Jasmine, composed, precise, allowed the moment to breathe. Every pause was intentional, every gesture controlled, every second reinforcing the inevitability. The truth had been fully revealed, and nothing could undo the clarity now displayed. The room, the world, stood witness. Lies, fury, and manipulation had collided with precision, resolve, and truth, and only one force had emerged unscathed. Jasmine had completed the mosaic, and the picture it formed would echo in history. Trump's face twisted, a storm of rage and disbelief contorting every feature. "You think this ends here?" he shouted, voice cracking, reverberating through the chamber like a battering ram. This is a setup. You and your followers are trying to destroy me." His fists slammed repeatedly on the polished oak desk, rattling papers and microphones. The force behind each strike seemed desperate, a chaotic attempt to reclaim dominion over a battlefield that had clearly turned against him. His words came fast, sharp, venomous, each one a flailing swing meant to intimidate. But instead they revealed exhaustion, a loss of control. Jasmine's eyes met his, steady, unwavering. The calm in her gaze a stark contrast to the storm in front of her. Every sentence she spoke cut through the chaos like a surgeon's scalpel, precise and unrelenting. "Donald," she said, voice firm yet measured, "yelling does not rewrite facts. Anger does not replace accountability. Power misused cannot shield lies, and fury cannot hide truth." The chamber seemed to hold its breath. Even Trump's allies, still trembling from the revelations of the previous sessions, froze, caught between loyalty and the undeniable clarity Jasmine projected. The microphones captured every syllable, every hiss of frustration, every small intake of breath, as if the air itself were charged with tension. Trump's lips curled into a sneer, though his eyes betrayed the fear beneath. "I've built empires. I've commanded armies of influence. And you, little you, dare to lecture me? Dare to tell the world I am wrong?" Jasmine leaned slightly forward, her hands resting lightly on the desk, her tone unwavering. "It is not about empires, Donald. It is about truth. And truth does not bend to titles or threats. Every empire built on manipulation will crack. Every influence bought with fear will falter. You are witnessing it now." A flash of panic crossed Trump's face as he barked, These people are behind you. They are scheming." His voice rose higher, strained, almost frenzied, yet the room absorbed the fury and amplified Jasmine's composed counterpoint. She tilted her head slightly, voice cutting through the clamor. "No one is scheming except reality itself. It does not conspire, it simply exists. And when deception collides with evidence, only one outcome is possible: clarity, accountability, truth. That is what the world sees, that is what your allies see, and that is what history will remember." Trump roared again, a sound more animal than human, echoing around the chamber. Papers scattered with each strike. Microphones quivered. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every quiver in his jaw, the tightness in his throat, the shallow cadence of his breathing. He was trying to dominate through sheer force of volume and aggression, but the effect was hollow. Jasmine's voice remained steady, unshaken, each word deliberate, each pause like the controlled exhale of a warrior. "Every time you lash out, every time you try to intimidate, it only reveals weakness. You cannot fight the mosaic we've assembled with shouting, with threats, with anger. The public, your allies, history itself, they have already judged, and the judgment is clear." The audience leaned forward, both inside the chamber and across millions of live screens worldwide. Every movement, every word, every expression was being dissected. The clash had evolved beyond a simple confrontation. It was a duel of wills, a psychological ballet of power and precision. One side flailing with uncontrolled fury, the other striking with calm certainty. Trump's voice rose one final time, a desperate crescendo. "You think this will hold? You think the world will believe this?" Jasmine's lips curved in the faintest hint of a knowing smile. "The world does not have to believe, Donald. The evidence speaks for itself. Every fact, every recording, every document. They do not need faith. They do not require trust. They are undeniable, and they have already spoken." A stunned hush fell over the chamber. The words, the cadence, the undeniable presence of Jasmine contrasted sharply with Trump's unrestrained fury. The clash of chaos versus control, deception versus clarity, reached a momentary apex. Every spectator's heartbeat seemed synchronized with the tension in the room, waiting, holding, captivated. Trump's body shook slightly, an almost imperceptible tremor betraying the cracks in his composure. He opened his mouth to yell again, but no words emerged. Jasmine, composed, precise, let the silence amplify the point. Her gaze alone communicated the unshakable dominance of truth over chaos. And in that pause, that suspended instant, The audience realized the defining moment had arrived. The battle was not just about words, documents, or recordings. It was a test of will, a test that separated resolve from rage, truth from illusion. Jasmine's calm, precise strikes had carved a path through fury, and for the first time, it seemed the outcome might be inevitable. The room and the world beyond its walls waited, riveted, every second a heartbeat closer to the ultimate resolution. Trump's desperation was loud, chaotic, obvious. Jasmine's precision was quiet, relentless, inevitable. And in that collision of wills, everyone knew they were witnessing history unfold. Each second more gripping, each word more pivotal than the last. The chamber fell into a tense silence, the kind that pressed against eardrums and raised pulses. The gavel of the presiding chair slammed down, echoing like a cannon shot through the air. "Order!" The chairman's voice rang, firm and unwavering, slicing through the residual chaos. Every head turned, every eye fixed on Jasmine and Trump. The final act of this relentless duel was about to commence. Jasmine inhaled deeply, her posture straight, her expression serene, yet commanding. She knew the stakes. Every word, every pause, every inflection would either cement her victory or allow the slightest fissure for doubt to creep in. She had already dismantled lies, exposed deception, and turned public opinion into a living force. Now all that remained was the final declaration, the ultimate assertion of truth. She stepped forward, letting her gaze sweep across the chamber, lingering on each senator, each advisor, each journalist, each camera lens. Her voice, when it came, was a calm storm. "Today is not about politics," she began, measured, precise. "It is not about power, nor prestige, nor personal vendettas. It is about the principles that hold our society together: justice, accountability, and truth. The people entrusted us with the responsibility to act, and act we must. For when deception thrives, when lies are shielded by authority, the foundations of democracy tremble." Trump's face tightened, the familiar bravado faltering. He opened his mouth, but his words lacked force, a rare faltering crack in the armor he had worn for decades. "This is fabrication, unfair." His voice trailed, weak, fragmented, betraying a desperation that even his usual volume could not mask. The chamber, the world beyond, noticed. Jasmine pressed on, her tone unyielding, each phrase striking like the measured hammering of a bell. "We have seen evidence laid bare. We have heard accounts corroborated, connections drawn, and motives revealed. No amount of yelling, no amount of theatrics can erase the facts. What remains is the undeniable mosaic of truth, a mosaic that transcends individual ego, fear, or influence. This is the law speaking through the clarity of reality." The cameras captured every micro-expression. Trump's hands fidgeted, a faint tremor running through his fingers. His breathing, once loud and commanding, was shallow and erratic. Even his staunchest allies shifted uneasily in their seats, some hiding glances behind official documents, others exchanging silent, questioning looks. The perception of dominance, carefully cultivated over years, had begun to dissolve under Jasmine's relentless clarity. She paused, letting the silence carry weight, letting the chamber absorb the gravity of her words. Then she continued, sharper, more deliberate. "Leadership is not measured by the fear one can instill, nor by the loyalty coerced. Leadership is measured by courage, the courage to be accountable, the courage to face scrutiny, the courage to serve the people honestly. And today, history has judged, and history has found that truth cannot be silenced." Trump's voice rose weakly, a final grasp at control. I am unfairly treated." But it rang hollow. The chamber was deaf to theatrics now, tuned only to fact, to principle, to the compelling force of justice laid bare. Jasmine's words had shaped a verdict more profound than any legal ruling. They had created a moral decree, broadcast live to millions, echoing in the hearts and minds of a nation. She stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "You may scream, you may shout, you may attempt to rally fear, But fear has no place where truth resides. The walls you built with deceit are gone. The illusions of control have collapsed, and what remains is the undeniable clarity of justice. Trump's jaw tightened, his face a mask of fury and defeat intertwined. The outburst that might have once swayed crowds now seemed pathetic, even tragic. He banged his fist weakly on the desk, but the sound lacked authority. The chamber and the watching world recognized it for what it was, a futile echo of a man exposed, unraveling under the force of uncompromising truth. Jasmine's final words, delivered with calm precision, resonated in every corner of the chamber. Let this be a testament. Deception cannot endure, fury cannot prevail, and the truth, once uncovered, commands its own authority. Today, accountability is not a choice. It is a reality. Today, justice has spoken. The gavel struck again, but this time it was ceremonial, a punctuation to the moral and intellectual victory Jasmine had achieved. The silence that followed was deafening, charged with awe and recognition. Every heartbeat in the chamber, and millions across the globe, held suspended, acknowledging the end of the battle. Trump sank slightly in his chair, for the first time visibly diminished, his voice failing to assert dominance. His allies avoided eye contact, the veneer of loyalty cracking irreparably. Jasmine, composed, victorious without a single gesture of triumph, allowed the room to witness the full weight of her victory, calm, reasoned, undeniable. The chamber exhaled collectively, the world exhaled with it, and history recorded the moment, unflinching, unaltered, and unforgettable. The gavel fell one last time, a resonant punctuation on the culmination of what had been a relentless storm of confrontation, revelation, and unwavering resolve. The verdict, though not needing words to confirm it, leaned decisively toward truth. Facts had prevailed, evidence had endured, and the moral compass of the nation had found its lodestar. Trump rose from his seat, shoulders tight, jaw clenched, eyes scanning the chamber with a mixture of defiance and disbelief. The cameras swarmed, flashes bursting like lightning, reporters' microphones thrust forward as questions ricocheted in the air. Yet the words that left his mouth were fragmented, powerless, utterances of frustration and indignation that fell flat against the tide of clarity Jasmine had created. Every step he took toward the exit was heavy, weighed down by the collapse of carefully constructed facades and the undeniable gaze of accountability. Outside the chamber, the press gathered in a frenzy, live feeds broadcasting every motion to millions around the world. The hashtag #YearnTrumpVsJasmine trended globally, a digital monument to the clash that had captured hearts and ignited debates. Even staunch supporters felt the tremor of the verdict, the shift in momentum palpable in the tremor of voices, the twitch of hands, the hesitation in statements. Truth, once assembled and articulated, had a gravity that could not be ignored. And then Jasmine moved. She rose gracefully, the quiet force of her presence commanding attention without a single raised voice. Each step she took was deliberate, measured, echoing through the chamber like a statement in itself. The roar of applause began softly, then swelled into a tide carrying her forward. Journalists pivoted cameras, audiences leaned closer, and the world seemed to converge in that singular moment. She was not merely victorious, she had become the embodiment of accountability, the symbol of justice realized. Her eyes met those of countless spectators on screens across the globe. The calm strength in her gaze communicated a message louder than any speech. Courage, integrity, and unwavering commitment could confront the most formidable of forces and emerge unscathed. She allowed herself a small, composed nod, an acknowledgement of the journey endured, the battles fought, and the weight of the truce unveiled. Trump's departure left a vacuum, the echoes of his anger fading into the background, leaving behind the resonance of Jasmine's words and the evidence she had wielded with precision. For the first time, he was reduced to motion without dominance, a presence overshadowed by clarity and moral authority. Allies followed, their faces a mixture of uncertainty and the dawning recognition that the battle had irrevocably shifted. Outside the chamber, people gathered around screens, in homes, cafes, offices, and public spaces. Discussions erupted spontaneously, Debates sparked, but everywhere the narrative was the same. Jasmine had not only presented facts, she had articulated the principle that accountability is inevitable, that deception, no matter how entrenched, cannot withstand exposure under scrutiny. And yet her victory was tempered by the unspoken truth that the journey was not over. There would be battles ahead, challenges to face, and forces resistant to change. But in that moment, the triumph of integrity over manipulation was undeniable. Her footsteps carried her through the chamber doors into the light, where the roar of support surged, a tide of recognition and validation. She paused just beyond the threshold, letting the cheers wash over her, soaking in the collective sense of hope and affirmation. Cameras captured her silhouette, a figure poised at the intersection of history and justice, the quiet calm of certainty contrasting with the chaos left behind. The moment was both culmination and prologue, a reminder that truth requires vigilance, courage, and resilience. With one last glance back at the chamber, Jasmine spoke softly but with conviction, her words recorded, broadcast, and etched into the memory of the moment. This battle is not finished. There will always be those who seek to deceive, who wield power without principle. But today, the truth has prevailed. Today, justice has spoken. And every step forward will be built on the foundation we have established together. The applause rose to a crescendo, reverberating through halls, streets, and hearts alike. She walked into the light, a symbol, a beacon, a living testament to what steadfast courage and uncompromising integrity could achieve. The chamber, now emptied of chaos, seemed to exhale one final time, leaving behind the quiet resonance of a battle concluded and a dawn of justice begun. And as the world looked on, collectively inspired, there was a single unifying acknowledgement. While the journey toward truth and accountability continues, the moment had arrived when courage and honesty had triumphed over fury and deceit. Jasmine Crockett, resolute and unyielding, had ensured that the legacy of this encounter would echo far beyond the walls of a single chamber. In the aftermath of battle, the true victory belonged not to power or pride, but to unwavering integrity and the courage to face truth. Jasmine Crockett's stand reminds us that honesty, patience, and steadfast resolve can dismantle deception and illuminate justice, even against formidable opposition. May we carry this lesson into our own lives, to speak boldly for what is right, to act with conscience over convenience, and to let courage guide our choices so that each of us may leave a mark of goodness, clarity, and enduring honor in the world. If this story stirred something in you, pause for a moment. Let it sink in. Talk about it. Share it. Like, comment, and send it to someone who still believes that truth and justice matter. Subscribe to Harrison Stories, where courage meets accountability. Hit the bell, because the next confrontation is coming, and it won't be gentle. It's intense. It might just make you rethink power, integrity, and what it takes to stand for what's right. This story is a fictional dramatization, inspired by real struggles, real corruption, and real courage. Any resemblance to actual people or events is coincidental or meant to provoke reflection and conversation. Thanks for watching. Justice is not given. It is earned, fought for, and defended. This is Harrison Stories.